Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that rejoices in the worldwide reach of the mighty Celtic. From Bonny Bridge to Botany Bay, from the Paps of Jura to the peninsula of Malaya. You're part of A Celtic World. Whether you're more into Paps or peninsulas, you're all very welcome. And a big warm welcome to our contributors. Céad Míle Fáilte, not Céad Míle Fascist, to Steve in Sydney and Jerry in Singapore. Steve first, how's it going?
Yeah, going well, Gav. It's good to be back on. Haven't been on in a few weeks, so it's nice to be back and talking about competitive action, proper football, being back again after the sort of kid-on stuff over the summer.
Kid-on stuff. Well, you've been participating in quite a few of the summer episodes yourself. And Jerry made, I think, one appearance over the summer, so you should be very refreshed for the season.
I would have been if I didn't stay up to watch the game last night, Gav. So as we were just talking about, so that was a shocker. Flag Day at whatever time kickoff it was, 1:30 a.m. I think I crawled into my kennel last night. So, but yes, delighted that we're back and talking about real stuff and not all that nonsense that we had during the summer, that Euros thing. But yeah, really excited, really enjoyed the game last night, as I'm sure we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, we all enjoyed the game. But let's start, before we get into the game and run through all the elements of it. How are you feeling about this being where we are, Jerry, first of all, at the start of the season?
I really enjoyed the way the team were playing in the pre-season friendlies, albeit the pre-season friendlies, obviously. I thought we were that game yesterday was the type of game, I think, certainly at this point last season, where we would have struggled. We would have struggled to break that team down. And again, notwithstanding all the problems that Kilmarnock had last night, but I'm feeling relatively comfortable. I think Brendan's looking fairly confident and comfortable with where he's at and where the team's at, where the squad's at, and his belief that he's going to get what he needs. And I'm sure he's very aware of what he's going to lose over the coming, 3-4 weeks between now and the end of the window. It was even better. I kind of broke a tradition because I had nothing better to do on Saturday night and watched the Hearts game. And certainly nothing to fear from either of those sides. I thought, and I actually watched the Dundee derby last night. I thought that was a much better game of football, and two teams I think that'll give them troubles this season. So yeah, all up. I mean, I'm always quietly confident at the start of a season, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it, and looking forward to the woes that will continue to befall our friends from across the river.
Well, what about this, Steve? Here's a message or a comment from Red Scotland. 6 players in that side yesterday who I expected to be on the bench this season as backup, but such is the boardroom theft and deception, this was not the case. As a result, I am nonplussed. Of course, a lot of people use nonplussed to mean not impressed, unhappy. In fact, it means, surprised or confused or not certain how to react. And that's exactly how I feel. I'm not certain how to react. Delighted with the victory, but holding fire on, overall emotions, because I celebrate this team doing well, but I don't know if this team is going to be our team for the season. Are you feeling this sort of duality of emotions?
Yeah, well, as ever, I've got every confidence in the team and every confidence in the manager. But I've got zero confidence in the board to deliver what's required. Now, what the comments said there about reserves in the team is very, very true. And nobody would have expected to see Liam Scales still his first choice centre half in the first day of the season, and nobody surely would have expected us to have one available striker by the first day of the season. And both of those situations are chronic failures of the board and the recruitment process. So that's bad. On the good side, we've clearly seen the benefit of a great pre-season. There was a lot going on yesterday, which I'm sure we'll talk about to come. That was different from last year. There was a lot of different sort of tactical moves happening. The fullbacks seemed to be being used in an entirely different fashion. It looked as if the midfielders were running in behind a lot more. And that was great. So I really enjoyed the game. But in the back of my mind, I can't help, thinking what we're going to do if, for instance, Cameron Carter-Vickers gets an injury, because he's just come off of a Copa America and he's hardly any break, and he's back into competitive action again. Now, were he to take a knock, even a slight knock, going by the bench yesterday, you're looking at a centre-half pairing of Welsh and Scales again. And that's not going to cut the mustard at any level. Never mind the Europe, not even at SPL level. Will Scales and Welsh do the job? So that all needs to be addressed. And the fact that a knock for Kyogo means we don't have any available fit strikers at the club. It's gross negligence. I know we're amping the blame, and we'll probably talk about it later on. But the blame needs to go somewhere, because it's not an acceptable situation to be in at this point in the season.
I think Kyogo the GOAT is kind of pretty accurate there. The board have not earned any good grace when it comes to transfers, but no point in losing the heat now and upsetting the good start. So unless anyone has anything else to say, we'll get into the game. Do you have anything else that Jerry you want to add?
No.
Okay, brilliant. In that case,
I may just add a great big get it up you to beIN Sports. I've decided a late decision yesterday to subscribe to beIN Sports, which is the platform in Australia which has the rights to the Scottish football. Now, they're not on they used to be on Foxtel or the Sky platform here, but they're not anymore. They've got a standalone app, but they're the only one where the game is available for replay straight after the final whistle. So the game was a 1:30 a.m. kickoff here in Sydney. So on a Monday morning, you're not staying up for that under any circumstances. So I got up at 5 and I put the TV on, ignored my phone, social media blackout, and then clicked on the video to be presented with the score in big bold letters in front of me on my 75-inch telly with a button that said hide score. So I'm thinking, for fuck's sake, surely the button should say reveal score and it to be blank to start with. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So
no, it's 1-9.
I knew the score before I watched it. I sat through the whole game though. So just for the purposes of research for tonight's show. So 10 out of 10 to me for that. But beIN Sports, get a grip.
Get a grip indeed. All right, well, let's kick off with the TIFO. What did you think of that, Jerry?
Yeah, I thought it was. I had a few mates at the game last night. A few of the Sing Tims at the game last night. So, and I was trying to work out what I said from their position. But yeah, I'm still not 100%. I'm still not 100% sure what I can obviously read.
Well, the wording is obviously Celtic. We've won the league again.
Won the league again. Fly the flag.
And then on either side it says fly the flag. And there's a hand holding a flag. It's not the clearest, the hand holding the flag.
That's what it is.
Awesome some of them have been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
they tried to go for an animation effect with the flag fluttering.
Right.
And it didn't. I'm not sure if it really came off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to criticise the Green Brigade for that TIFO, because these guys put in endless hours to get these things ready. And I agree with Jerry. It wasn't the best one I've seen, but given the standard that's been set for TIFOs all over Europe now, especially in Eastern European and Scandinavian countries, it's just incredible what they're doing. Big pulley systems from the top of the stand, pulling up big designs and pieces of fabric. So it wasn't my favourite one, but good effort nonetheless.
Well, we had an amazing pulley system, did we not, Jerry? Here's our pulley system.
Yeah, thank God they managed to. I thought for a second they weren't going to manage to get that to the top of the wee flagpole.
Do you want to say anything about Jim
God
and Elizabeth.
God bless them.
Yeah, it's great to see them there and being part of the celebrations. There's another dwindling amount of Lisbon Lions around for us to celebrate, so I think it's very, very important that we cherish them during these occasions, because it won't be long before they're just a memory, and we want to make sure these guys are appreciated.
Absolutely, I think that was the thing that struck me more than anything else last night. Just how fragile, if I'm allowed to use that term, that they look. I mean, none of us are getting any younger, but it's as you say, Stephen, we're not far away from them all just being a memory. Lovely to see. I mean, it's great. It was better than I think if our chairman had if he tried to fly the flag yesterday, wouldn't have had quite the reception that they did.
Oh yeah. On that note, R.I.P. Ursula Lennon. I'm sure you're all aware of that sad news.
Yeah, you've got to really feel for Neil Lennon. He's not had his troubles to seek recently. Ever since he left the manager's job at Celtic, it's been one thing after another, really. And I worry about him. You worry about his mental health, especially over there in Romania. And he's a long way from home and probably not that much support over there. So I hope he's all right, and I hope he gets through it. But it's very, very sad news.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on a happier note, then let's go through some of the main incidents of the game. Like this. Oh, not like that. Oh, I've just spoiled what I was going to do later. Damn it. Bit rusty, first show back.
Gremlins in the works.
All right, you keep talking amongst yourselves here while I set this up. I say keep talking amongst yourselves while I set this up.
Okay. One of the times we're talking, we had a young couple from Perth at one of our games last season, and I was telling him I've got some season tickets, and he was saying, "Oh, any chance you get me tickets for Flag Day?" So I got him 2 seats for Flag Day yesterday. So I was inundated with photographs from people at the game yesterday.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's alternate with these then. Stephen, first of all, 15 minutes. Kyogo gets through. Keeper comes out, makes himself big.
Yeah, I think that one was an incredible first touch from Kyogo. He created that one for himself after a pass that was fizzed into him at pace from O'Reilly, I think. And he was very, very unlucky. Good save from the goalkeeper, who spread himself well and got a touch on it. And managed to avoid clattering into the striker, which is something we'll talk about later on also. But it was very unlucky. I think the first touch in itself deserved a goal.
Yeah. And then the next thing that happened a minute later, Jerry Hatate goal, square ball on the edge of the box from Forest, which is a description that I use for these photographs over and over again. Square ball across the edge of the box from Forest. That's something they're clearly doing a lot of.
I mean, again, Celtic were first, I think, almost the whole game to when the ball broke down, and I did that in the box. And I think it was it Greg Taylor that squared that ball, or was it Forrest that squared the ball? I thought it was Greg Taylor.
No, it was Greg Taylor.
Was it Greg Taylor?
It was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I mean, I thought Kyogo was great first and foremost. I thought the whole midfield were great last night. Again, not maybe the strongest opposition that we're going to play this season, but they did finish fourth in the league. And took his. That looked like a Kyogo of the first season, or sorry, the Angie's last season.
Hatate or Kyogo? Who are we talking?
Sorry, Hatate. Sorry, did I say Kyogo? Hatate.
We all need a pre-season, and
you threw me off with the Forest comment. Took that goal extremely well, and to come. I mean, it's great that it came within. I think it was within a minute, right? I think Chris Sutton said 52 seconds of the Kyogo chance. So Wonderfully executed strike. Yeah.
Good start for us. I don't think it's that I need a pre-season. I mean, I feel like I'm the Alistair Johnson of A Celtic World, you know. Been doing all these summer shows and I'm exhausted. You know, I probably need time off.
I'm even more than CCV.
All right. What about that O'Reilly pass, Stephen? It's just about to be played here. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think
Gorgeous,
I think so.
Pass.
Was that just the ball in behind for Kyogo again? Was it?
Yeah, it just plays it sort of across in between these two defenders, just slides it perfectly with the perfect weight.
Yeah,
Kyogo runs on it, hits it.
It was a great pass, and O'Reilly, especially in that first 30 minutes of the game, was unplayable. I thought some of the little passing triangles that he got involved in with the wide players and the other midfielders were really fantastic. And again, that was a pass worthy of a goal. And at that point, you were thinking, this is great. You know, we're gonna run away and just put on a cricket score here.
But the shot was a bit too close to the keeper. It was a good height for him. He made the save, if you remember.
It's a good keeper, that Ross McCrory, I reckon. I reckon he'll do well for Kilmarnock. He was the backup keeper at the bad guys, but I don't think he's much behind Jack Butland in terms of quality. And I think he'll do okay at Kilmarnock. But I think that's a good transfer for him.
£30 million Super Jack. Talking about.
Yeah. The guy with the £1 million sell-on clause.
He did better, Ross McCrory, than the last time he played against Celtic. The last time he played against Celtic, he was in the Livingston team and we beat them 6-0. So he was,
right.
he was 2 goals better off last night.
So 23 minutes, Hatate squares it to Kyogo, but it's well defended. That wasn't particularly memorable, but you can see the defender's about to jump in there with the left leg. Take that off Kyogo's foot. 24 minutes, this was one of their chances. They didn't have many. Killie volley straight at Schmeichel after a heavyweight tussle in the corner between CCV and Vassell. And Vassell did really well and put that ball in. Do you remember that? The volley went right at Schmeichel.
Vassell lay on top of the ball, and I think Carter Vickers stepped back off him when he was lying on top of the ball and stood up and went with it again. So, yeah, I mean, they would have been disappointed with that. That was a fairly poor effort straight at Schmeichel.
Mm-hmm. 34 minutes, Forrest run and cross to Kyogo. Don't quite remember that one myself, but it looks kind of similar to the last one. Defender coming in with a last-minute challenge.
Is that the one that breaks?
Oh, that is this one. Yes.
Yeah, breaks
to Kuhn here.
And Kuhn has a double chance and really should have scored, to be honest.
Should have scored.
One. Yeah.
This is the first one, and there's the second one, the ball sailing over. Did the keeper get a touch? They were given a corner after this. Celtic got a corner.
He did get a touch. I don't think it would have gone in. I think it would have still hit the come back off the bar. I would think that he did get the slightest of touches to it.
39 minutes. The all hail the Ginger King. Liam Scales rises like a salmon very elegantly in the air. Heads it into the far corner, Jerry.
Yeah, my son who flew up from Sydney last night was really pissed off because this is the first game he's not had a bet on Liam Scales to score a goal for. He bet him every game last season, and yeah, that was great, and he's capable of that, right? And great header. I mean, a fantastic header. Just guided that into the bottom corner.
41 minutes, Forrest shot saved, Kyogo on standby. Yeah, that was another thing that, another exciting goal-mouth moment. Anything could have happened. The keeper saved it, and Kyogo couldn't get on the end of it.
Yeah, I think it was just fired in too fast for Kyogo to react there, and the keeper got a hand to it and diverted it around the post. But I don't think you could really blame Kyogo for that one.
That's a better way of saying what I just said, for sure. Here's O'Reilly.
It's my speciality, Gav.
O'Reilly now, who's almost showboating. Did you get that impression? He's playing with such a swagger. He's like a Harlem Globetrotter a bit. This was a gorgeous pass. You can see the movement that Hatate's about to make or is making. and O'Reilly lofts it over. Do you remember this, Jerry? O'Reilly throws a leg at it, but doesn't come off.
Yeah. I'm interested in you're saying O'Reilly has looked a bit globetrotterish. I think even in the pre-season friendlies, O'Reilly was he looked. Do you remember? I'm sure you all do when Virgil van Dijk came to Celtic, and the first game I watched him was like, how did we sign this guy? This guy's unbelievable. He's just strolling through games. I think Matt O'Reilly's had that look in the last couple of months of the season, the pre-season friendlies. He's just strolling through games.
Different level, yeah.
And that was a good example of what I was talking about earlier with Hatate running in behind the defenders. You never really seen that last year, but he done it a couple of times during the game, and that's if he can add that string to his bow, he can take his game up a couple of levels, Hatate, and it was excellent to see that.
I think that was a big difference last night, Steve. That there were more runners, many more runners. I mean, last season we were watching and everyone frustrated for Kyogo making runs and no one else was running, and it was great to see a whole bunch of. Again, that whole midfield I thought were great last night. There was again, we'll probably talk about the players later, but I thought pretty much everyone in the team last night contributed very positively.
Absolutely. Let's get on with the second half then. Stephen, Hatate just wide after a Forest square pass. I'll say it again. I wrote that a few times, not always correctly, but the shots from the edge of the box, those little spaces, clearly we're working on them, trying to make the most of those against these defensive units.
Yeah, it was another good effort from Hatate. I think it was heading for the bottom corner. Whether or not the keeper would have saved it or not, I'm not too sure. But it took a slight deflection off the defender and went out for a corner. But really excellent work by both Forest and Hatate, finding that little pocket of space. And again, if he can add a few more goals to his game, then it's happy days for us.
Happy days indeed. 56 Scales left foot shot cleared off the line. This should have been a goal, Jerry.
It should have been a goal. Yeah, he was very unfortunate. Unfortunate that there was a man on the line. Good defender, I guess, from Kilmarnock's perspective. But he didn't do anything wrong. That's for sure. Scales, but that was very unlucky. Didn't score.
I mean, as you say, we're going to talk maybe a bit more about individual players. Nobody had a bad game, but he really underlined here how he may not be Champions League level, but he's perfectly good at this level, isn't he?
Yeah, and that, I think it was that fat knuckle dragger said in Sky last night, that when they were, Chris Boyd, when they were talking about, the lack of transfer activity and saying, to be honest, the next 4 games, Celtic are good enough with what they've got right now to beat the teams that we've got coming up.
And then Kuhn on 58 minutes scores with a deflection after an awesome pass on the turn from Kyogo around the halfway line, Stephen.
Yeah, and it was a great burst of pace from Kuhn to get away from a defender. I thought Kuhn had a really, really good game and showed real glimpses of directness, the sort of directness that's been missing from his performances at the last season. And this was a perfect example of it. He gets the defender, he's got them backing off him and they don't know what to do. A number of times he went outside his man, a number of times he went inside his man. So the defender's in two minds. On this occasion, he's come inside through a couple of dummies and then went for a shot, and he's got lucky with the deflection. But I think he earned that luck with the driving run. He'd won a few minutes before this when he played in Cal McGregor, and McGregor didn't get the cross past the defender. But I thought Nicholas Kuhn, especially in the second half, was really, really good and seemed to be, he seemed to be a couple of yards quicker than he was last year. And I don't know whether it was a fitness or a conditioning thing, but he certainly was more direct and had the defenders, the left back particularly, in his pocket all day.
Yeah, his pace at times was incredible. But I remember last season, I can't remember who it was I was talking to, but apparently he's significantly faster than than Dyson Maeda. So I'd always thought would be the fastest man in the world, never mind in the Celtic team. But he's very pacey, Kuhn. And I totally agree, Steve. He's I think a couple of them, Kuhn looks like, I think he's starting to look like the player that we thought he might have been when we signed him, and certainly, what Brendan believed he was buying at the time. And I also think that Hatate, and Brendan said that as well, but I mean, Hatate looks like he's up for it this season, and hopefully he stays injury free this season, because we certainly last season missed what he brings and can bring to the team.
Yeah, I've got a note later on to talk about the players this season that might represent something significantly better than they did last season, and those two are on my list. But let's carry on with these little snippets from the game. Hatate shot over the bar after Cal Mack's effort blocked on 69 minutes. Not much to say about that. Hatate crossed for Kyogo after the lovely little passage of play. Do you remember that little triangles of dinking it around?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it was an unbelievable. This is the one that Kyogo put round the post, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what a pass! And you would have thought Kyogo would at least hit the target with that, but that
totally was his kind of goal,
Absolutely,
that's what he did. That's what he's done for seasons.
Absolutely.
He should have scored. He should have scored. To be honest with you, it was put on a plate for him.
He should have.
Should have at least.
But yeah, one wonderful passage of play and unbelievable first ball there. It was marvelous.
It was like at this time you're watching, you're thinking, God, this is a magnificent performance. Really, and you add it all together. Kyogo's offside on 81 minutes. Remember, he scored a goal and then it was called back. I mean, what can you tell from that angle? It's not ideal, is it?
Certainly not. It's not absolutely conclusive, is it?
No.
I don't know. In the old days, that would
like
be
the first week of VAR. This, isn't it?
That sort of angle. In the old days, that would have been benefited of doubt to the attacker, and it'd have been a goal. But here we are.
84 minutes, Kyogo penalty shot. So this is O'Reilly's little. I mean, talk about showboating, globetrotting. This free kick is pretty much evidence of that, Jerry.
I didn't see this, Gav. I went to bed at 80 minutes. I told you.
Oh, you haven't seen this?
I haven't seen it.
Well, if you can see from that photograph,
yeah,
O'Reilly looks shapes as if he's going to kick it, and then he just sort of walks up to the ball and flicks it from a standing position up and over the defence to Kyogo, who runs on, takes a touch, and then is clattered into by the keeper, which Stephen is going to make the case for being a stonewaller.
Yeah, I like that.
Hang on, I must have seen this when Kyogo was completely taken out. Unless it happened twice in the game, then I did see this.
Okay, well, Steve,
I think I went to bed right on this. Then, an absolute stonewaller.
Yeah, I mean, but on first glance, I thought he was offside, and I thought that was going to be the result of the VAR. I thought he was going to put his hand up and give the free kick for offside, but he didn't. And so I can't work out why it wasn't a penalty. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me. I had the volume turned down quite low on account of the fact it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to wake everybody in the house up. So I'm pretty sure I heard the Sky commentator babbling about VAR was saying it was just a coming together of two players. But I mean, every single challenge on a football field is a coming together of two players. It's just that's a nonsense statement. If the two players come together and the keeper cleans out the attacker without getting any of the ball, then it's a foul anywhere else in the pitch and it's a penalty in the box. So somebody needs to explain to me. And I think subsequent images have showed that he wasn't offside. There was a Kamara defender just playing him onside. So it should have definitely been a VAR penalty. Look, I think I might have a little bit of sympathy with the officials on this one, in that I think with Willie Coleman in his first weekend as a role ahead of referees, I think they would want to do everything to avoid any sort of VAR controversy. And I think that was probably why they let it go so late in the game. The game was already decided, and they just didn't want to go down that road. But it was the wrong decision, and they've just ended up creating a VAR controversy by not applying the rules correctly. Now, the easiest thing for them to do was to just call it offside, and draw the lines, and it would probably be inconclusive the same way the first Kyogo chance was. But no, this nonsense about a coming together or something like that is just a load of crap.
Okay, and you two are much more sort of historians of Celtic than I am. So if we can pretend I didn't play that little video earlier, what goal does this remind you of? Anyone?
Yeah, I was actually at that game. I'm pretty sure it was a League Cup final in the mid-1980s.
And you saw this. Better play that again. Tommy Burns, Brian McClare. That's a shame I spoiled that. I was looking forward to that little quiz question. Stephen may have frozen. Jerry?
Looks like it. Looks like it. Brian Choppy McClare. I was just recounting to someone. I was talking to a guy who used to run the Manchester United Supporters Club in South Africa, and I was telling him about Brian McClare coming to visit us in Singapore, and the boys going and buying all the beards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's carry on with the incidents. I think this might be the last one. This is a Ralston goal after the keeper palmed Kyogo's shot to the side, Jerry, and then
Which
the
I definitely didn't see, but delighted for the Bricky.
Well, that's what happened.
For the
Kyogo had a shot. Keeper dived left. It shot out wide, and Ralston had followed up in that position, which was good, and smashed it low through the legs of the keeper, and then ran to the crowd to make that heart shape to his daughter and blow her some kisses. Lovely, wholesome moment.
Did he do a slide, Gav?
No, thankfully, no slide.
No slide. You'd be happy with that.
Well, we all hate a knee slide, don't we?
We do.
Oh, I hear a noise. That must mean that Stephen has returned.
Can you hear me?
You're back with us. Yeah, you're back with us.
I don't know what happened there.
According to Pete McGee, you were doing the impression of a ventriloquist.
So I was just in the middle of saying there that I was actually at the game you were talking about. It was a League Cup final in the mid-80s, and Tommy Burns dinked the ball over the wall to Brian McClare to score the equaliser. We pulled the game back to 2-0. That was the first goal, and we eventually ended up pulling the game back to 2-0, having gone down 2-0. Ended up losing the game 3-2 with a late goal. But as soon as I saw that free kick routine, the goal from McClare jumped into my mind.
Do you know who was named man of the match in this game? Not that game, but the game we just watched.
I think it was Nicholas Kuhn.
Hatate
is the right answer. Rio Hatate, man of the match. All right. So that was the game. That was all good stuff. I just wanted to draw your attention to something I saw, which was rather unfortunate. Let me make it bigger here before we show it. About fan behavior. I don't know if you caught any of this, but
yeah, I saw you sent something earlier on, but
let me make that full screen. If you can't read that, this is a post from someone called Clary. Woman's just been split with some C word chucking a can from behind us in 4-1-1. Scumbag bastards. Why the F would you do that at the football?
Why would you throw a full can?
That's your take. That's your first reaction, Jerry.
Yeah.
Other people saying, yeah, half-wits in 4-1-8, throwing the flags with poles attached. Take someone's eye out. Kids around. Some pretty bad behavior going on. Again, you two know the ground more than I do. Are those particularly troublesome areas or anything?
I mean, I thought there was any particularly troublesome areas in the ground, to be honest.
Arseholery has become popular again. We've got some absolute idiots in our support. Just don't remember as many BAMs years ago. What is wrong with people? We just moved into 418 full of absolute BAMs, drinking, passing out gear, not even watching the game. Pure wastes of space. That's all rather unfortunate chit-chat, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have a fair share of clowns in our support. I mean, you've got 50,000 people there on a Sunday at 4 o'clock in the day, which brings us on to another point about why on earth were we playing at 4 o'clock on a Sunday when we're the champions unfurling the flag. It should have been the first game of the weekend on the Saturday at lunchtime before anyone else. But, there's no excusing that sort of behaviour. And I have to say, it's not something I ever experienced. I sat in section 404 for many years, which is not a million miles from 408. And I never seen anything like that. So obviously it's been a lot of years since I've had a season ticket up there. Things might have changed, but we certainly do have a fair share of clowns in our support.
Jerry, you want to say a few words?
I agree. We've got a fair share of clowns in the support, but I've, as you know, where my seats are all the time, and we're in the lounges having a few civilized pints.
That's all right for some.
It's you pay for it, Gav.
Listen to you flexing.
You pay not to get hit in the back of the head by it. But if I was hit by a full can, I'd be down in it.
Oh dear!
I just can't believe people are throwing their cans away. What's going on?
All right. Well, let's move it on to talk of the rest of the window. Basically, let's introduce this by. I don't know if you know this person, G. This is a wifey, twin mummy, Irish from Belfast. She pulls pints in Bittles Bar in Belfast city centre, if anyone knows that, which is in a fantastic building. Do you see the way that's like sort of flat ironish? Jerry, you watching?
I am now, Gav.
Bittles Bar.
Yeah.
Looks a bit
which
like
is just
Manhattan, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just, well, that's the glamour of Belfast, you see. It's just down the road from the Celtic shop. So next time I'm home, and I'm down picking up some car stickers and stuff, I'm going to drop in for a wee pint.
It's a fine looking building.
Oops, no, I didn't mean to do that either. Jeez, let's come back. Oh dear.
This is start of season teething problem stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is what she. The reason I'm bringing her up is look at this. Everyone relax. I'm on it, she says. This is her tweet. Whilst everyone was looking for a selfie with him, I hurled at him. Any chance of spending some fucking money and get Ida in, then the rest. He came over and said money's there to be used and Ida's in the plan. So, fair play for cornering that particular gentleman outside the game. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, I read that tweet myself today. I
did you?
think it's a bit ominous, to be honest. I think it's ominous in that he said there's money there to be spent. But the sort of subtext and the possible next sentence was that maybe Brendan doesn't want to spend it. And to me, it feeds into the narrative that the board and the recruitment team, whatever that is, whoever that's made up of at the moment, are still presenting the same types of players to Brendan that they have been for the last couple of years. And Brendan is just saying, "No, these players aren't up to scratch." So that's what I took out of that tweet. I think it was a thinly veiled shot at Brendan from our beloved chairman. Brendan's had his say, and as ever, Brendan's never wastes a word. And I think everything he said has been very, very deliberate to focus people's attention on the board. He's telling people that we know we need to strengthen. He's had conversations with Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay, the CFO, and he's trying to make it clear that it's on them now. And I think that was just Lowe firing back.
You could well be right. They certainly had a fairly acrimonious relationship last time, and that's for sure.
Indeed. Well, the reason we're sort of talking about whether there's choppy waters ahead is I'm seeing a lot of positivity from people. You know, they're thinking, oh, we're so brilliant in the first game and we're probably going to get a few more players in. Isn't that going to be awesome? I mean, okay, let's hope that's true. Let's hope we do get a few more players. And I suspect we will. But, you know, the windows work both ways. And there's a higher than 0% chance that we're going to lose at least one player, possibly more than one, and potentially key players. Now, O'Reilly is the most obvious one. Any change in anyone's belief that he will be sold this window?
Well, I still believe he will be sold, but I've changed my mind. I don't think he should be sold. I think we should keep him. I don't really see that we can afford to lose Matt O'Reilly from that team as things stand just now. Now, if you've got 100% confidence that the board are going to go and recruit someone to fill that space in the team, that Matt O'Reilly would leave, and for me, that person should already be in the building. If we are going to sell Matt O'Reilly, now I'd made the point towards the end of last season in a functioning trading model, Matt O'Reilly should be sold. You know, he's at the peak of his earning potential, but I've changed my mind now, and I think they should. Brendan Rodgers at least should do everything he can to keep him. Because, you know, what's the point? What is the point? Regardless of how much money we get for him, if we just throw the money onto a big cash pile, then it's not helping it's not helping the team. It's not helping us progress. It's not helping the manager get what he wants. And it's covering up for the deficiencies of the board. So I think he will be sold, probably in the last week of the window. But I've got zero confidence in them bringing in an adequate replacement. And by the way, that replacement is not Paolo Bernardo. Regardless of what anyone might say.
Well, anyone like Jerry last season?
I think he's a great player, and I think he shows a lot of promise. He's certainly not a like-for-like replacement for Matt O'Reilly, but you know, Matt O'Reilly's morphed into something that he wasn't necessarily when we signed him either. And you know, I told you before the end of last season that I believed that Matt O'Reilly was going and is done. And you know, I don't think Celtic want to sell Matt O'Reilly. Celtic don't need to sell Matt O'Reilly. I think Matt O'Reilly will dictate who Matt O'Reilly's going to, and more or as much as Celtic will. Certainly Brendan, maybe not the board.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry, that Paulo Bernardo's a good player, but you touched on it there. They're just not a like-for-like replacement. And if you look at the game yesterday, and look at that in isolation, if you take Matt O'Reilly out of that game, then we're a significantly weaker team. And so there needs to be some sort of coherent plan to replace him. And I'm just not. I don't think there is. And I know what you're saying about Matt O'Reilly will define whether he leaves this window or not. But Matt O'Reilly's in the first year of a 5-year contract, so we don't need to sell him, and we don't need to acquiesce to his demands. We could say, look, the price for you to go, Matt, is 40 million, for instance, just to pluck in a figure out of mid-air, and until we get a bid of 40 million, then you'll need to just stay and get on with it. Now I understand.
You're applying for a job at Norwich, talking like that, Stephen.
I'd be surprised, Steve, if that wasn't. I mean, that must have been the part of the conversation when he signed his new contract, right? I mean, he signed that new contract. I'm sure on the basis that when I bid for X and a club looked like Y came in, that they'd be allowed to go.
Yeah, I'm quite sure you're right, Jerry. But you've got to look at that through the prism of a trading model. And if we had a player in the door already who was looking like Matt O'Reilly's replacement, I would be quite happy to sell him for whatever money we get for him, would be at 25 or 30 million. Because I do think he's at the height of his earning potential. But at the moment, I just don't see you can replace him in the team with anyone that's there already. And I've got zero confidence. We've got 3 weeks left in the transfer window, just over 3 weeks left. And we can see that up to now, we've been moving at a snail's pace. It took us to the first week in August before we signed a guy who was on a loan with an option to buy. So that's how quickly we close transfer deals. We're still waiting on his signing Adam Ida, who again seems like a slam dunk transfer. These seem to be the easiest transfers in the history of football, but we just don't seem to be able to close them. So sitting here just now, I would say if you take Matt O'Reilly out of the Celtic team and don't replace him adequately, then you're jeopardising everything for this season to the point where we might be struggling to win the league if you take O'Reilly out of the team.
Okay, well, that's O'Reilly. But more than O'Reilly, actually, I want to talk about Kyogo, right? Because as we all know, he's changed agent during this window, apparently to the same agent as Postecoglou. And I don't know who his agent was prior to this or whether that agent orchestrated the move to Celtic. But the point is they didn't. It was Postecoglou that got him for Celtic, not the agent. So maybe he thinks his previous agent didn't have the chops to make this one big last move happen for Kyogo. So he's 29. He's turning 30 in January. He's been with us longer than Matt O'Reilly and maybe sees himself in a similar mode, like he's done a lot for the club. And it might be time for him to leave. And if he sees this, if he gets this sense that O'Reilly can leave with goodwill, why can't he? This may be what he's thinking. Now, from the board perspective, this is the thing that worries me the most. Among the playing assets, who is the standout player who could still attract a decent fee now, but is most likely to lose that ability by the end of next season? The answer for me is Kyogo. 29, 30 in January. That's a bit of a Rubicon, isn't it, for a striker? Nobody gets excited about a 30-year-old striker. Statistical decline, 36 goals 2 years ago, 21 goals last year. How many is he going to get this season? Under Rodgers, he's never going to score as many as he did under Ange because he's not the tip of the spear so much, especially if he's one of two first-choice strikers, as Rodgers has been talking about. So even if he scores the same amount again, will his value be higher next summer as a 30-year-old? What if he scores fewer? What if between our two first-choice strikers, they get 35 each? Then he goes from 36 to 21 to 17. What does that look like for a 30-year-old striker? If you're the board, are you not thinking, we have to strike now if we get an offer for this guy? Otherwise, his value is going to decline rapidly. I'm just trying to put myself in the position of the board. What the hell are they thinking at this time? And coupled with the fact that he's changed his agent. Are you nervous about that, Jerry?
Yes. Yeah, I think I sent you something today that, I mean, there's been talk for weeks now about him potentially getting back to Japan, and someone breaking the bank to come and buy him. Whether that's what he wants to do or not, I'm not sure. But again, people don't change agents unless they're looking for someone to represent them. I wouldn't have thought. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'd be. I think Kyogo's more replaceable than Matt O'Reilly is. To be honest, I'd rather have kept Matt O'Reilly. And the challenge is obviously we've got one striker in the building right now, and we need at least another two, in my opinion. So we've got some work to do before he goes, if he's going to go.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All the focus is who are we bringing in, but this is the horror scenario, Steve, of imagine Kyogo and O'Reilly both go before the end of the month. Then all this, backslapping about what a great result we've had on day one counts for very little if the team's unrecognizable without two so important players,
Well, from my point of view, there are no circumstances in which Kyogo should be sold. Now, if his heart is set on a move away from Celtic, he should be told next summer you can be sold, but not just now. As you've mentioned already, we don't have another striker in the building at the moment. We seem to be dragging out the Ida transfer for a lot longer than we should have. Might touch on that in a bit. And there's no one else. I don't see any other strikers that we seem to be linked with. So if we don't play Kyogo, how do you replace that? How do you replace what Kyogo is bringing to the team at the moment? And how do you do it in 3 weeks in a transfer window? The answer is you don't. It's impossible. So
if you're a fan, yeah,
but we need to stop getting obsessed with this valuation. What's his value going to be next summer? We're a football
I'm not
club.
obsessed with it, but the directors of the club like to make money.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go at you, Gavin. I'm going to go at the directors of the club. We need to stop. Some fans as well, to be fair. We need to stop being obsessed with how much players are worth. Because if there's one thing that we don't need that much right now, it's money. We've got a big pile of cash sitting there doing nothing. We don't need another 15 or 20 million pound for Kyogo just to throw in the cash pile. We need Kyogo. We need Kyogo scoring goals, and we need another striker on top of Kyogo, and possibly a third striker after that. So no way should we even be considering selling Kyogo. But that's not to say that I've got confidence that the board aren't considering selling him. But he should be told, next summer, if you want your move, then if we can get an equivalent replacement in to hit the ground running before next summer, then you can get your move then. But to be thinking about selling him this summer is just absolute lunacy. If we were to lose Kyogo and O'Reilly in the same window, we don't win the league. It's as simple as that for me. We're handing a league to the worst Rangers team in living memory, because that's how bad how large a hole they will leave in our squad if we let them, both of them, go.
I'm not sure they're the worst Rangers team in living memory. And you know, my memory's only going back to 2012, obviously, but they had some pretty shit teams from 2012.
I get what you're saying, Jerry.
No, they are pretty bad, but that's also what gives me worried.
And they're skint, and they're having to sell to buy it, and they're shite, and you know their manager's a clown, and he's he talks shit constantly. But they will. I mean, that's honestly and truly what I feel. If we sell O'Reilly and if we sell Kyogo both in the same window, then we're going to struggle to win the league, because who fills that gap? Who comes in? Because even if we sign Ida, you know, Ida will come in and do what Ida did last season, but who's going to do what Kyogo did last season? You know, how do we replace Kyogo? How much does it cost to go and replace what Kyogo brings to our team? And would Celtic pay that? The chances are they'd go and bring in Lawrence Shankland from Hearts or someone of that ilk, you know, and that's just not going to cut the mustard, you know. So I can't believe to be honest with you, I can't believe this conversation's even been mooted as a possibility. It's giving me indigestion.
Well, it's making me anxious too a bit.
Let's have a little listen to what Brendan... Take some tablets, Steve.
Yeah,
let's have a little listen to what Brendan said. See if you can see if there's any in between of the lines to be read in this.
I'm sure you're delighted to see that. Feel a little sympathy for Kyogo. The goalkeeper has denied him on several occasions, and he may even have had a penalty. But for you as manager, when your striker's not scoring, how important is it that others are stepping up?
Well, yeah. Well, for me, it's never about just the striker. I think that what he did so well today, Kyogo, was he played the space rather than the position. That's something that I've been talking to him about. I want him on the last line, and if the space is there to go in behind, great. But the space was today in front at times, and that drew out the opponent. And you see for Nick's goal where he came short, the space was there, and he spun it around the corner, and that creates a space then for Nick eventually to come inside. So yeah, the goals throughout the team has always been a mantra for me. There's no point in a striker getting 40-odd goals and everyone else not. So, yeah, across the team it's important to have goal scorers.
So he praises Kyogo, but he's also talking about how he wants goals from all over the team. You know, having read the thing that we saw earlier, which I will also share, I just thought that that interview with Brendan might have that thought of Kyogo not being involved might have flashed across his mind as he was saying that. Here's a WhatsApp chat, right? I don't get, this is from somebody who's supposedly ITK, not as ITK as they used to, but apparently still somewhat in the know. You can take this with a pinch of salt if you want. I don't get the same info I used to on Celtic, but hearing Ida deal is nearly done. Beck, likely. Kyogo, who changed the agents, and you don't do that unless you need agenting, will leave in a couple of weeks. At 29, he needs one last signing on fee, and Peter ain't in the business of allowing a sellable asset to wind his career down. Everything we just discussed. And finally, one stateside player to come. Rest is just names. We need to be patient. This window will go straight to the wire. Celtic doing due diligence on a significant build-out of the stadium and surrounding areas. Hope they start with Wi-Fi. Keep the faith. Hail, hail. Your reaction to that and to the words that Brendan just said, Jerry?
I'd agree on the Wi-Fi for sure, Gav. It's a shocker. So an absolute fucking shocker. Try to get a signal inside the stadium. It's murder. Subsequent to that, because I was in that chat, there was another follow-up comment on that Kyogo piece saying apparently he's been told he can go when his replacements are in the building, and that's why the timeline of a couple of weeks has been set. So
who's that? You know, who's been told he can go?
Kyogo.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But again,
that's what this is spurious.
Who knows? But that is from someone.
McNugget to be right.
That is from someone that is typically in the know. I mean,
I think that's Punch McNugget's review of today's show is below for everyone to see.
That would be an astonishing act of self-harm from Celtic, to be honest with you. I honestly, I don't have any faith in the board of directors, but I think that size of act of self-harm is beyond even them. Surely to God, that they can't see that that's got any mileage in it at all, because who are they going to sign to replace him? You know, we don't spend big money on players. You know, are we going to bring in Miofsky from Aberdeen and expect him to replace Kyogo in the team? Look at we've already spoke about the chances Kyogo created for himself. His first touch, I thought he was outstanding for parts of the game yesterday. Could easily have had a hat trick. So,
sure.
You know, how do you replace that?
We get it.
In 3 weeks.
You're pouring cold water on it.
I'm not sure it's Rennie's you need. It's blood pressure medication, my friend.
I came prepared. I've took mine already.
Look, we spent the whole summer avoiding talking about hypotheticals, right? And now it's the first game back this season, and we're talking about the hypotheticals of people leaving rather than transfers.
Well,
let's bring it back. Let's bring it back around to. I saw a comment earlier. I think it was Pete McGee was talking about Brendan improving players, and we sort of mentioned this briefly earlier, Jerry. Let's be positive for a moment and talk about names of players within the squad that could be very different propositions this year, far better than than a lot of people are expecting. I've got 4 on my short list. You've already mentioned 2 of them. Who were the 2 you mentioned?
Kuhn, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Stephen might have said Scales, but perhaps not.
No,
I
didn't say Scales.
I think Palmer. I think Palmer has got room for growth and improvement as well.
Right. Well, I've got 4 and then 2 backups. My 2 backups that might also be coached to be significantly better if their shortcomings can be addressed are Palmer and Scales. But the 4 I would go for, someone's just said Bernardo, Kuhn. No, anyway, Hatate, Kuhn, Bernardo. And I think Alistair Johnson's going to step it up after his wonderful show on at the Copa America. Hatate has basically had a season out last year, as far as I can see. But towards the very end, and now the first game of the season, he's shown what we were missing. Like when he plays well, we play well. No doubt about that. So if he can have a good old breakout season, a la O'Reilly this year, could be awesome. Kuhn is starting to change people's minds. Well, I know we're very impatient, but Bernardo, he isn't the ready-made replacement for O'Reilly, but you know, when O'Reilly came in, he wasn't significantly better than Bernardo is today, if you ask me. He improved exponentially this last year. and
Is he not-
years 1 and 2.
Is he not? He's not the Portuguese under-21 captain. I mean, you know.
For nothing. And Alistair Johnson's the other one I said. Kingston Boy here says Kun, Bernardo, Navrojki, and Home can all be improved. Navrojki needs to improve on his fucking injury situation. He's never available.
I agree on Home. There's absolutely a player there, but it's where he
if
gets
he gets the game time.
Where and when he gets the game time, where and when he gets a chance. And he's a really young boy as well, right? 21, 22.
Well, one of the main things I want to see from this season is just a couple of players putting a full season together, injury free. One of them's Hatate, who, as you mentioned, missed a good chunk of last season. The other one's Cameron Carter-Vickers, who again in the last 2 seasons had missed a big chunk of the season, including the majority of our Champions League campaigns. So I want to see Carter-Vickers having a full season, injury free. Obviously, you're going to get the odd niggle, but just no extended layoffs. And I'd love to see him getting a crack at the Champions League, a full crack at our Champions League campaign. And if he doesn't, if we have another injury disrupted season from him, then that's another position we need to look closely at, maybe next summer, because that's 2 seasons in a row he's missed a ton of games.
I mean, we absolutely need another central defender, Steve, no matter what, before this window closes, without a shadow of a doubt. Because there haven't,
without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. And to be fair, I don't think I haven't seen too many central defenders linked either. We were linked to the boy, is it O'Shea from Burnley?
From Burnley, that's the one that's consistently we've been linked with.
Yeah, he's been touted a bit, and I think there was a boy from Bournemouth as well. Is it Meehan? I think his name is, but I'm not sure. There's not really been anything substantial in amongst a load of these links, and there you go, PMG. He knows his stuff.
He forgot to say for once at the end. We're talking about hypotheticals here. So listen, we'll just have to see what happens over the course of the rest of the month. There's significant jeopardy and there's significant upside. So, it's nothing if not interesting anyway to see what eventuates, as they say in Australia.
See that this week, for the love of God, sign Adam Ida, for fuck's sake. Get him signed, because how much longer can we drag this out? The player's getting booed by his own fans now because he's made it quite publicly known he wants to move to Celtic. We have to make that deal happen. It's all right saying we're hanging out to save money, but how much is it costing us in terms of what the kid's going through at the moment? His mental health can't be in a really good place. It's no use.
Projecting onto yourself here, Stephen, or you're projecting your own mental health struggles onto Adam.
It's deteriorating as we speak. But it's not fair to leave him down there in that situation. We've got to make that deal happen. We've got to close the deal. If you believe reports, we made an opening bid of about 4.5 million or something back in July, and haven't been back with a second bid. So
yes, well, why not? Why haven't we been back? I think. Again, trying to think like the board might be thinking. As soon as he made it known that he wanted to play for Celtic, they thought, okay, brilliant. Let's just sit in our hands and let this play out. Might take a few extra weeks, but it could save us a couple of million.
I'm sure that is the case. And no one else is in for him either. So no one else is in for him.
I've got a name that I'll throw at you then in regards to that. John McGinn. Exactly the same scenario. John McGinn was desperate to sign for Celtic. And we held out, hoping that Hibs would crumble and accept a low ball offer from Celtic because the player was forcing the move. What happened was someone else nipped in, gave him the money, gave him the wages, and gave him a chance to play in the EPL. Right now, the same thing could happen with Adam Ida quite easily. Now, if Adam Ida, what's going through his mind just now in terms of, do Celtic really want me? Do they really want me to come out and play for them? We've known the price that Norwich are after for a month or two now, and we don't seem to be getting any closer to it. But you make an opening bid. I don't want to see us paying over the odds for Adam Ida, but you don't just make one bid and then wait for the player to force a move and for the club to crumble, because it generally doesn't happen. We have to go back with either a slightly improved offer or slightly improved terms or slightly improved add-ons, something to make this deal happen, because at the moment we're stuck in limbo. We've got one striker who could be injured at any time, who could pick up a knock, and then we're in all sorts of 7 different shades of fucked if that happens, So we need that deal closed, and we need it closed this week.
Gav is desperate to sign for Celtic, but that doesn't mean Celtic have to sign this particular 57-year-old. How do you ban people in the comments? 57, fucking Frank Brennan. The last comment you'll ever make. I'm much younger than 57. Oh dear, the fun we have. Right, well look, just before we close out the show, I didn't ask you for what do you call it? Celtic social media choices, but I've got a couple of ones here. This is from the Big Cup on Twitter. Some Egypt in the Scottish Sun has run an article saying Paddy Power is paying out already on Celtic winning the Scottish Premiership. Don't they realise it's just another Paddy Power wind-up? It's hilarious. They did announce that they were going to pay out.
They did.
After one game. Oh, and then, yeah, Johan Mjelby was there for Flag Day. It's good to see. Did you notice that?
Yep. With he was sitting next to what? He was sitting next to what I'm assuming was his granddaughter.
Frank Brennan's really pushing it today, I tell you. He's only coming down in increments of 1. He's like the board.
At least he's coming down the way and not going up the way, Gary.
It was all right when he called me. It was all right when he called me daft old Stephen, was it? Now he's having a go at your age. Then no, that's no good. You're banned for that.
Well, that's what happens when you're in control of the comments. No, he's not banned. Of course not. In fact, Frank, unlike himself, made a load of really nice and pleasant comments when the American show was on. When we were talking to the guys last week. And I was thinking, look, that is what Frank is capable of. If only we saw that consistently week in, week out, he'd be on the first team instead of his usual silliness. So well done, Frank. Keep it up. Good man. We'll all stick together. One big happy Celtic World family. Right, lads?
Right.
Okay, that just about brings us to the end. Thank you very much, everyone in the comments, for your usual crack. Lots of fun, as always. Sorry for that little bit of negativity today, talking about things that could possibly go wrong. We're not generally bedwetters here, are we?
I don't know about you guys, but I look forward to the 1st of September or the 2nd of September when I'm not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and getting straight onto Twitter and finding out what the fuck's going on. Only for it to be fuck all almost every day. So
yeah,
that is the
when you jump on the Kerrydale Street, the forum, and the transfer threads jump 30 pages, and you think, oh yes, something must have happened. And then you realise that it's just a couple of guys arguing over how good Adam Ida is or something like that. So,
well, thank you for staying tuned, everyone, to watching a couple of guys arguing over things that may or may not happen. And we'll see you again on Thursday for another A Celtic World. All the very best. Cheers.
Hail.
Yep. Hail.